First contact and fatal miscalculation. The Kraxan warships emerged from hyperspace like obsidian daggers cutting through silk, their massive forms blocking out the stars as they positioned themselves in a perfect geometric formation around Earth. Admiral James Richardson stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, his weathered hands clasped behind his back as he watched humanity's first contact scenario transform into humanity's worst nightmare. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies, sir," Lieutenant Wei announced, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. Text and audio, automatically translated. Richardson nodded, his steel-gray eyes never leaving the central display. "Let's hear what our visitors have to say." The message was brief and devastating: "Your species has been deemed unworthy of continued independent existence. Submit to immediate integration into the Kraxan Empire, or face extinction. You have one planetary rotation to decide." The following hours were a blur of global emergency sessions, frantic diplomatic attempts, and military mobilization. Richardson found himself in a secure bunker beneath Geneva, surrounded by the highest-ranking military and civilian leaders Earth had to offer. The room buzzed with tension as reports flowed in about the Kraxan fleet's capabilities. Their smallest support ship could level a continent, General Patel reported, her hologram flickering slightly. "The energy readings we're getting from their weapons systems are off the charts. Nothing in our arsenal comes close." Director Yuki Tanaka from the Global Defense Initiative leaned forward, her expression grim. "What about the Threshold project? We've been developing quantum-based weapons platforms. We'd need months, maybe years to implement anything effective," Dr. Ibrahim Hassan interrupted, running his hands through his silver hair. "We have hours." Richardson had remained silent throughout the exchange, his mind racing through scenarios, possibilities, and the countless war games he'd participated in throughout his career. Something about the Kraxan ship's positioning nagged at him. They were arranged in perfect, mathematically precise formations, too perfect. "Show me their shield configurations again," he suddenly requested. The holographic display shifted, showing detailed scans of the alien vessel's defensive systems. Dr. Hassan raised an eyebrow. "We've been over this, Admiral. Their shields operate on principles we barely understand. The energy matrix alone." "That's just it," Richardson interrupted, standing up. "Look at the pattern distribution. It's perfect, too perfect. They're running their shields at maximum efficiency, no redundancy, no overlap. They've optimized everything to mathematical perfection." "And?" General Patel prompted. "And that's their weakness," Richardson said, a plan forming in his mind. "They've evolved their technology to handle every known threat in the most efficient way possible. But their optimization leaves no room for the unexpected, the imperfect, the chaotic." He turned to Director Tanaka. "The Threshold project, you were working on quantum uncertainty weapons, correct? Things that don't just cause damage, but introduce chaos into systems?" Tanaka's eyes widened as she caught on. "Yes, but they're highly experimental. Unpredictable. We can't control their effects with any precision." "Exactly," Richardson smiled grimly. "And that's why they might work. The Kraxan have built their entire military doctrine around predictability and perfect efficiency. They've engineered out chaos, and that's their fatal miscalculation." The next few hours were a frenzy of activity. While the diplomatic corps kept the Kraxan occupied with deliberate bureaucratic delays and requests for clarification, every quantum research facility on Earth worked to modify the Threshold project prototypes for immediate deployment. The plan was audacious, perhaps suicidal, but it was the only card humanity had to play. As Richardson watched the modified quantum devices being loaded onto his fleet's ships, he couldn't help but appreciate the irony. Humanity's best chance at survival lay not in matching the Kraxan's technological perfection, but in embracing the very chaos and uncertainty that made us human. Just before the deadline, Richardson addressed the combined Earth fleet. "They expect us to either submit or launch a conventional attack. They've planned for every rational response. But humanity didn't get this far by being rational. We got here by being adaptable, unpredictable, and just crazy enough to try the impossible. Today, we show them why that matters. The quantum devices were ready. The fleet was in position. And as the deadline approached, humanity prepared to teach the Kraxan Empire a lesson about the danger of underestimating a species that had survived and thrived by breaking all the rules. The Earth's last stand. The view from the UES Defiance Bridge showed Earth below, a brilliant blue marble suspended in space, with the Kraxan fleet's dark shapes looming like storm clouds above it. Admiral Richardson watched as the last of the modified quantum devices were integrated into his ship's weapons systems. "All ships reporting ready, sir," Lieutenant Wei announced, her voice steady despite the tension. "Quantum devices are powered up and synchronized across the fleet." Richardson nodded, knowing that around the world, billions watched and waited. The Kraxan's deadline had arrived, and humanity's response would either be their salvation or their doom. He opened a channel to all Earth forces. "This is Admiral Richardson. Launch Operation Uncertainty." The Earth fleet moved in seemingly random patterns, breaking every conventional formation. The Kraxan ships adjusted their positions slightly, their perfect geometric arrangements shifting to optimal combat configurations. Their response was exactly what Richardson had predicted, mathematically perfect, and utterly vulnerable. The first wave of quantum devices activated. There was no dramatic explosion, no visible beam of energy. Instead, waves of quantum uncertainty rippled through space, introducing chaos into the perfectly ordered systems of the Kraxan ships. Their shields, optimized for maximum efficiency with zero redundancy, began to fluctuate wildly. "Sir, picking up massive energy fluctuations in the enemy fleet," Dr. Hassan reported from his station. "Their shield harmonics are destabilizing. The quantum field is working." But the Kraxan weren't the most powerful empire in known space for nothing. Their response was swift and devastating. Energy beams lanced out from their capital ships, turning 3 Earth vessels into expanding clouds of debris. Their weapons were still devastating, even if their shields were compromised. "Continue the attack pattern," Richardson ordered, even as his ship shuddered from a near miss. "Focus quantum devices on their flagship. All conventional weapons, target their destabilized shield sections." The battle that followed was unlike anything in human military history. Earth ships darted between the massive Kraxan vessels, their movements deliberately erratic, launching quantum devices and conventional weapons in seemingly random patterns. Each quantum burst caused cascading failures in the Kraxan's perfectly optimized systems. A massive explosion lit up space as one of the smaller Kraxan ships succumbed to the chaos, its systems completely overloaded. It was humanity's first victory against their supposedly invincible enemy, but it came at a terrible cost. The Kraxan response demolished half of Earth's Asian defense fleet in a single barrage. "Admiral," Director Tanaka's voice came through on a private channel. "The quantum field is having an unexpected effect. We're detecting some kind of temporal distortion around the Kraxan vessels. The uncertainty isn't just affecting their shields, it's affecting spacetime itself around their ships." Richardson's mind raced with the implications. "Can we use this?" "Maybe," Tanaka replied, "but we need more data. If we could get closer readings." "Understood." Richardson switched to the fleet channel. "All ships with functioning quantum devices, converge on these coordinates. We're going to push this advantage." The Earth fleet's formation shifted again, concentrating their quantum attacks on a single point in the Kraxan line. The effect was immediate and stunning. Space itself seemed to warp and twist around the targeted area, the quantum uncertainty creating a cascade of temporal distortions. But the Kraxan had adapted. Their ships began to move in less rigid formations, sacrificing efficiency for stability. Their return fire was less precise but more widespread, creating killing zones that were harder to evade. "Sir," Lieutenant Wei called out, her voice urgent. We're detecting massive energy buildup in their flagship. They're charging something big. Richardson watched as the quantum field data scrolled across his display. The temporal distortions were growing, becoming more unpredictable. They had wounded the mighty Kraxan Empire, shown them that humanity wouldn't go quietly, but was it enough? All ships, prepare for emergency maneuver pattern Delta, he ordered. Concentrate remaining quantum devices on these coordinates. We're not done yet. As the Earth fleet moved into position for what might be their final attack, Richardson couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. Humanity had taken the Kraxans' greatest strength, their perfect, orderly efficiency, and turned it against them. They had proven that sometimes the greatest power lies not in perfect order, but in embracing chaos and uncertainty. The next few moments would determine whether that lesson would be humanity's epitaph or the beginning of their legend among the stars. Turning the tide. The temporal distortions rippled across space like heat waves on a summer road, bending light and warping reality around the Kraxan fleet. Admiral Richardson watched as Director Tanaka's predictions played out on his tactical display. The quantum uncertainty fields weren't just disrupting the enemy's systems, they were creating tears in the fabric of spacetime itself. Multiple temporal anomalies detected, Dr. Hassan reported, his voice tight with excitement and fear. The distortions are expanding exponentially. Sir, we're getting readings that suggest localized time dilation effects. Richardson leaned forward in his command chair. Explain. Time isn't flowing at the same rate everywhere in the battle space anymore, Hassan said. Some areas are experiencing time faster, others slower. The Kraxans' perfect formations, they're falling apart because their ships are literally experiencing time differently. The revelation hit Richardson like a thunderbolt. The Kraxans' greatest advantage, their absolute precision and coordination, was becoming their greatest weakness. Their ships, experiencing time at different rates, couldn't maintain their synchronized attacks. New contact. Lieutenant Wei's voice cut through the moment. Massive energy signature emerging from hyperspace. Sir, it's another Kraxan battle group. The tactical display updated to show 5 more capital ships joining the battle, their dark forms emerging from hyperspace like sharks coming up from the depths. The odds, already desperate, had just become nearly impossible. But Richardson noticed something odd about the new arrivals. Their formation, it's different. Instead of their usual perfect geometric patterns, the new Kraxan ships were arranged in a looser, more organic formation. They had learned from the first wave's mistakes. These ships maintained distance from each other, their shields overlapping in redundant layers. They've adapted, General Patel observed through the command channel. Our quantum uncertainty strategy won't be as effective. No, Richardson agreed, but that's not our only card to play anymore. Dr. Hassan, what happens if we concentrate all our quantum devices on a single point in spacetime? Hassan's fingers flew across his console as he ran calculations. In theory, we could create a temporal vortex. But sir, the effects would be unpredictable. We could tear a hole in spacetime itself. Better than surrender, Richardson said. He opened a channel to all Earth ships. All vessels, execute Protocol Omega. Focus quantum devices on these coordinates. And may whatever gods exist have mercy on us all. The Earth fleet moved with desperate precision, their remaining ships forming a rough sphere around a central point in space. The quantum devices activated simultaneously, their effects multiplying and cascading. The temporal distortions, already visible to the naked eye, began to spiral and concentrate. The Kraxan noticed too late what was happening. Their adapted formations, spread out to minimize the impact of quantum uncertainty, now worked against them. They couldn't regroup quickly enough to stop what was coming. Space itself began to twist and fold at the focal point of the quantum devices. The temporal vortex formed slowly at first, then with increasing speed, like a whirlpool forming in the fabric of reality. The nearest Kraxan ships, caught in its influence, began to experience time at radically different rates. Some seemed to freeze in place, others moved with impossible speed, their careful coordination shattered. "Sir," Wei called out, "the vortex is stable, but it's growing. We're detecting something coming through." The tactical display showed something emerging from the center of the temporal distortion. Not ships, not weapons, but data. Streams of information pouring through from different points in time-space. Director Tanaka's voice crackled over the comm, filled with awe. "Admiral, we're receiving technical data. Specifications, blueprints, these are cracks in military secrets. From their past, their future, from parallel timelines. The vortex isn't just distorting space-time, it's creating a bridge across it." The Kraxan fleet's response was immediate and panicked, the first time they'd shown anything but cold efficiency. Their ships began emergency maneuvers, trying to retreat from the vortex's influence. But some were already too close, caught in temporal eddies that made their movements erratic and uncoordinated. "Download everything," Richardson ordered. "And prepare our remaining quantum devices for one final burst. We're not just going to survive this battle, we're going to change the course of this war." As the data poured in and the vortex continued to grow, Richardson allowed himself a grim smile. Humanity had done more than find a way to fight back, they had stumbled upon the key to understanding their enemy's greatest secrets. The Kraxan Empire was about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous opponent isn't the one with the most advanced weapons, but the one desperate enough to break the rules of reality itself. The hunter becomes the hunted. 3 months after the Battle of Earth, Admiral Richardson stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned UES Prometheus, a hybrid vessel that merged human engineering with stolen Kraxan technology. The ship represented humanity's first step into a new era of warfare, one where they were no longer simply prey fighting for survival. "Final systems check complete," Lieutenant Wei reported from her upgraded station. "The temporal shielding is holding steady, and the modified quantum drives are operating within expected parameters." The Prometheus led a fleet of similar hybrid vessels, each incorporating lessons learned from the temporal vortex data. The ships were ugly by Kraxan standards, a mixture of sleek alien aesthetics and brutal human pragmatism, but they were effective. "Multiple contacts," Wei announced. "Kraxan patrol fleet, bearing 037. They haven't detected us yet." Richardson nodded, watching the tactical display. The Kraxan ships were moving in their new, adapted formations, looser, more organic patterns designed to resist quantum uncertainty effects. But that wasn't humanity's only weapon anymore. "Begin Operation Ghostwalker," Richardson ordered. "All ships, activate temporal phase drives." The human fleet shimmered and seemed to blur, each ship shifting slightly out of phase with normal spacetime. It was another innovation born from the stolen data, the ability to operate in the microscopic gaps between moments, virtually invisible to conventional sensors. The Kraxan patrol passed through their position without raising an alarm. These weren't the border worlds the Empire was used to terrorizing. This was Kraxan space itself, and humanity had brought the war to their doorstep. "Sir," Dr. Hassan's voice came through the comm, "we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the third planet in this system. They match the theoretical patterns we extrapolated from the vortex data." Richardson pulled up the sensor readings on his display. The energy signature was familiar, it matched fragments of technical data they'd retrieved about the Kraxans' most closely guarded secret, the source of their technological superiority. "Send the data to Director Tanaka's team," he ordered. "And plot an approach vector. It's time we learned what the Kraxan are really hiding." The Prometheus and its fleet moved through the system like ghosts, their temporal phase drives allowing them to slip past the Kraxans' vaunted defense networks. As they approached the planet, the energy signatures grew stronger. "Sir," Wei called out, her voice tense. "We're picking up communications. Lots of them. But, they're not Kraxan." The intercepted transmissions filled the bridge's speakers, dozens of alien languages, all carrying the same undertone of desperation and fear. Richardson's expression darkened as the truth became clear. "They're prisoners," he said quietly. "This isn't a military installation, it's a harvesting facility. The Kraxen aren't just conquering other species. They're consuming them somehow." The tactical display showed more details as they entered orbit. The planet's surface was covered in vast complexes, each one holding thousands of captive beings from dozens of species. The energy signatures they detected were coming from massive extraction facilities, drawing something from the prisoners, something that powered the Kraxen's advanced technology. "Life force," Dr. Hassan breathed, looking at his readings. "They've found a way to convert consciousness itself into energy. Every advancement in their technology, every perfect shield and weapon, it's all powered by stolen lives." The revelation hit the bridge crew like a physical blow. The Kraxen Empire's apparent technological superiority wasn't the result of natural advancement, it was built on a foundation of unimaginable suffering. "Send everything we've found to Earth Command," Richardson ordered, his voice hard. "And begin mapping the facility's defenses. We didn't come here just to gather intelligence." The prison planet's defensive grid was formidable, but it was designed to keep people in, not out. The Kraxen had never imagined anyone would dare to attack them this deep in their territory. That arrogance would be their undoing. "All ships, prepare for temporal synchronization," Richardson commanded. "We're going to free these people and show the Kraxen Empire that humanity doesn't just fight for itself, we fight for everyone they've tried to enslave." As the fleet moved into attack position, Richardson thought about how far they'd come. Humanity had entered this war fighting for simple survival. Now they were fighting for something larger, the freedom of countless species who had suffered under Kraxen rule. The Kraxen Empire was about to learn another lesson about humanity: we're at our most dangerous not when fighting for our own survival, but when fighting for others who cannot fight for themselves. Victory through innovation. The combined fleet of Earth and liberated species filled the space around Kraxen Prime, their ships representing dozens of civilizations united by a common cause. Admiral Richardson stood on the Prometheus's bridge, surrounded by a crew that now included representatives from many of the species they'd freed from the harvesting facilities. "The Kraxen home fleet is mobilizing," Lieutenant Wei reported, her station now augmented by a Zentari tactical officer whose crystalline form sparkled under the bridge lights. "They're deploying everything they have." "As expected," Richardson replied. The tactical display showed thousands of Kraxen warships moving to defend their capital world. It was the largest concentration of Kraxen military power ever assembled, and exactly what they'd been counting on. Director Tanaka's face appeared on the main screen, her lab behind her bustling with activity. "The modified quantum cascade device is ready, Admiral. But you should know, our simulations suggest this will be far more devastating than anything we've attempted before." The device was humanity's ultimate weapon against the Kraxen, a fusion of quantum uncertainty technology and the knowledge gained from studying the Empire's life force extraction systems. It was designed not to destroy the Kraxen ships, but to free the stolen life force that powered them. "Their entire civilization is built on stolen power," Dr. Hassan said from his station, where he worked alongside a former Kraxen scientist who had defected after learning the truth about his people's empire. "Take that away. And their whole society collapses," Richardson finished. "Begin the operation." The Allied fleet moved in a complex dance, each ship's position calculated to create a vast, interconnected web of quantum fields. The Kraxen responded with their traditional precision, their formation still mathematically perfect despite everything they'd learned about the dangers of such rigidity. "They can't help themselves," the Kraxen defector, Science Officer Nexar, observed. "Our society is built on the belief that perfection equals power. Even knowing it's a weakness, they cannot adapt." The quantum cascade device activated, its effects rippling through space in waves of distorted reality. But unlike previous engagements, these waves carried a specific frequency, one that resonated with the stolen life force that powered the Kraxen fleet. The effect was immediate and spectacular. Cracks ships began to lose power as the stolen energy that fueled them was released. The freed consciousness of countless beings erupted from their vessels like auroras of pure light, each one seeking its way home through paths that defied normal spacetime. Multiple cracks vessels going dark, Wei reported, her voice tight with excitement. Their primary systems are failing across the board. But the cracks weren't finished. Their flagship, a massive vessel at the heart of their formation, began to pulse with a different kind of energy, darker, more primal. They're tapping directly into their stored reserves, Nexar warned. Centuries of harvested life force, all being channeled at once. If they release that much power in one burst. Richardson didn't hesitate. All ships, execute Protocol Omega Final. Focus everything we have on their flagship. We end this now. The Allied fleet's combined quantum fields converged on the Kraxan flagship, creating a temporal vortex larger than any they'd generated before. The ship's dark energy discharge met the vortex in a collision of opposing forces, stolen life against quantum uncertainty, perfect order against calculated chaos. Space itself seemed to hold its breath for a moment. Then the vortex won. The Kraxan flagship imploded, its stored energy released not in a destructive burst but in a wave of liberation. Millions of captured consciousnesses, some held for centuries, burst free. The effect cascaded through the Kraxan fleet, then to the planet below, as every repository of stolen life force was breached. They're surrendering, Wei announced, almost in disbelief. The Kraxan Planetary Defense Force, they're standing down. On the tactical display, Richardson watched as Kraxan ships went dark one by one, their perfect formations dissolving into disorder. Without their stolen power source, they were just ships, their supposed technological superiority revealed as the theft it had always been. Send word to the Allied fleet, Richardson ordered. Begin landing operations. There are going to be a lot of confused and angry Kraxan citizens down there when they realize their whole society was built on a lie. They'll need help transitioning to a new way of life. As the combined fleet moved to secure the Kraxan homeworld, Richardson reflected on the journey that had brought them here. Humanity had entered this conflict as victims facing extinction. They would end it not as conquerors, but as liberators, having taught the galaxy that true strength comes not from stolen power or perfect efficiency, but from innovation, adaptation, and the willingness to fight for what's right. Send a message to Earth, he told Wei. Tell them it's over. The Kraxan Empire has fallen. And let them know, we're bringing everyone home. In the space above Kraxan Prime, the last traces of stolen life force danced like starfire, each consciousness finding its way back to its people, its home, its destiny. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly as it should be.